So we go from Castle of Illusion to Castlevania. And basically, this is like a Konami section of the show. Castlevania Bloodlines, Contra Hardcore, great, great games for both of those that moved away from Nintendo to bring you a Genesis version.
Yeah, that was, I remember because, Konami was in love with Nintendo. Castlevania,
rightfully so during the time.
Yeah, Castlevania, Contra, they were fan favorites of Nintendo for a long time, and when the Genesis hit, as popular as Genesis was there was no Konami games. No Konami games. And then all of a sudden we got Castlevania. And then we got Contra. Contra was hard. Contra was so hard.
I mean, there are games that are hard today. Yes, you got your Bloodborns, all those kind of games. I get that those games are super hard today. Those games back then were just like another level. They're just like, oh, great, you're dead. Have fun. Start over. Go back. Start over. And you just had to just get your ass kicked time and time again. You know what it's like on a much smaller level today, like a microcosm, because it's not even nearly as bad as then. Is when you find an Emmy in Metroid Dread, because the first time you find one, like you're dead. There's nobody that got away the first time they ran into an Emmy in Metroid Dread. But eventually you get better and better at the game. Like, most times, like I'm a little further in the game now and I'm meeting them and they're actually faster than in the beginning of the game. So it's even harder. But I'm also better at countering. So it's kind of balanced out. Like, that just reminds me of those games back then. That's my point. Like, Jesus, like, God, I must die like 15 times before I can finally kill this thing and like understand where I can go to like get the best vantage point, And that's what they did back then. They just brutalized you until you figured it out. Yep. And then once you figured it out, you're like, oh my God, I got you,
Some hard stuff, man. But that was a happy day. A happy day.
The next thing I would mention is Championship Pro-Am. Now, this is not the first time RC Pro-Am was released. It was released on the NES. It had other ports as well. But Championship Pro-Am is the definitive version of RC Pro-Am, in my opinion.
I never played it.
It is phenomenal. Like, did you ever play RC Pro-Am on the NES?
Nope. I did not.
To me, this is the precursor to Mario Kart. They looked at this game and were like, how can we make this better? And then they made Mario Kart. In my opinion. They had weapons. They had stuff you dropped behind you, like bombs. They had missiles that you could shoot off in front of you, like red shells or like green shells, because they just went straight.
I may have to go back and revisit that. I've never played it. Never played it.
Oh man, it was so cool. The first time I played it, it was a rental, and I remember it was Thanksgiving Day. I was going to my cousin's house, and I knew my cousin had a Genesis, so I was like, "Well, I'm going to bring this over there," because I started playing it at home. I'm like, "Oh, we got to go to my cousin's house for Thanksgiving." All right, fine. He has a Genesis. I spent all of Thanksgiving in his bedroom playing Championship Pro-Am with him until it was dinner. Then immediately went back upstairs and continued to play Championship Pro-Am for the rest of the night. And now, one I'm less familiar with, I've played this game very briefly, so I can't talk in depth about it. But the one thing that sticks with me a lot is the soundtrack to this game. And that game is Earthworm Jim.
Oh, yeah, Earthworm Jim. We were just talking about the animation and the graphics on the Disney games. Earthworm Jim rivaled that, in my opinion.
Yeah, he used like he had like a whiplash sort of thing with like his head, right? He would grab stuff and like grab hooks and stuff.
He had his it was a platformer. He had his big blaster. But yeah, he would, to get to to swing and stuff, he would use his head. His head would turn into a whip and grab onto branches and stuff and swing to different levels. But it was, to look at Earthworm Jim was great.
It looked like a comic book or like maybe a cartoon.
Or cartoon.
Like that. Yeah.
So smooth, so smooth.
Now, I do remember playing this also on the Genesis, probably at my neighbor's house. He had a Genesis. Or I'm sorry, not a Genesis, Super Nintendo. So I played both versions of this game at some point, and I know people like different versions for different reasons. I just like the Genesis version, man. Like that soundtrack, you could either make the Genesis chiptune music work or you couldn't. And I feel like they knew what they were doing really well with the Genesis on this version of the game. I think it sounded so much better on the Genesis than the Super Nintendo, where a lot of games tended to sound better on the Super Nintendo as opposed to the Genesis, but not this one.
Okay, yeah, I never did the Super Nintendo version, so I don't have anything to compare with. I got the Genesis version, fell in love with it, and that's what I stuck with.
Now we have 3 classic games. I've only played the first one for a brief period of time. I never played 2 or 3, so I can't speak to them. And I mean, this is a Genesis staple, and this, of course, is Golden Axe.
Golden, again, another heavily played arcade game brought home. Thank you, Sega.
I mean, this game looks great. Even the first one looks so good on the Genesis.
It's classic. It's classic hack and slash. It's Golden Axe, man. I mean, I think everybody, regardless of their age, knows Golden Axe.
Did you play to some degree? All 3?
I did play all 3. I think I own 1 and I think I own all 3. I have to double check my game on. They improved the graphics on each of them. You know, you got a few more, you know, the power-ups look different, a couple new characters, but it still played like Golden Axe. That's, and it's funny, Golden Axe is a game that's like, you know, it never changes. It's the same game, and you play it to completion, and you put it away for a little while, and you go back to it, you play it to completion, you beat it, you know, Death Adder, that was the boss. And then you just go and, yeah, it never changes, but it was so much fun to play.
Yeah, it was decent. Again, I'm not too familiar with the older ones, but I did like the first one quite a bit.
Kicking the little elves so they drop the potions.
Yep. Hell yeah. Now this game I have a weird nostalgia about. I think I've rented this game one time, and I wasn't the biggest fan of him. And I think I rented this game because there was nothing else to rent when I went to the store one day to rent a video game. I know that sounds terrible because the game's actually pretty decent. And that's Moonwalker by Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson's Moonwalker.
This game is actually good. It's a good game, and this is a very early, if not a launch title for the Genesis. Like, do you remember if this was a launch title? I know it had the black.
It had the black borders.
The borders.
So it was, I don't know if it was a launch title, but it was very early in the Genesis life cycle, because you could tell by just based on the box art, because you had the black, like you said, the black borders.
Like a grid.
With the grid, right. And then at some point they went full picture and got rid of the black borders. So, but no, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker had the black border. So it was an early release. It was good. I mean, you know, the soundtrack was good. They tried to emulate Michael Jackson's music as best as they could.
Yeah.
He had his dance moves, and he had his power to throw his hat and, you know,
throwing his hat like Odd Job and
exactly like and James Bond. Yeah, he threw his hat and, you know, killed whatever enemies that was around. And it was, again, that's another arcade game that Sega brought home.
Now, me knowing you, I think you probably enjoyed it being Michael Jackson, but you would have preferred a Prince game.
If they would have gave me a Prince game, I would have been all over it. But they gave me Michael Jackson, so I had to settle for it.
You got to take what you can get, man.
And at that time, if they gave me a Prince game, it would have probably been adult only.
Oh my God, man. So this is a little tangent. I got cable TV, and I watched like not a lot of stuff on there too much, but there's like a channel called MTV Classic where they just show music videos. So I was watching it the other night with my wife, and a video of Prince came on from the 80s, and oh my God, man. Like, he's like ripping off his shirt, showing his chest hair. He's like humping the ground and stuff. Like, oh my God. Like, this is, it's like I told her, I was like, my friend that I used to work with back in the day, I was like, he would love this right now.
all day long, man. All day long.
Oh man. You gotta love Prince.
Yeah, so I didn't have a Prince game, so they gave me Michael Jackson. It was fun. It was fun. It's
a good game. You should pick it up.
It is a good game
if you have a Genesis.
It's pretty hefty price. I think if you could find one box and, you know, complete box and instructions, It's a hefty penny.
Yeah, well, I'm still looking for one. So if you get one at the store, give me a ring, let me know, and I'll buy it.
All right, I got you. You mind if it has instructions? If it's just a box?
I do mind.
Box and instructions, fine.
For Genesis, I mind. I need it complete.
Okay, fair enough.
Other systems I can be sort of lenient with depending on the system, but not Genesis. I have all my Genesis games complete except for ones that I've got. If I have a loose Genesis game, it's because I paid nothing or next to nothing for it. That's why.
Okay.